Pranam, Jai. Thank you for watching part 2 of this video. So we talked about all these different 5 metaphors in the first part. Today we're going to go deeper into the Jain scriptures and analyze deeper about the mind and its workings. We'll do this through a number of ways. First, I wanted to share a story entitled Prasannachandra Rajarshi. After that, we will move to look at a couple of songs. The first song is from actually a Bollywood film, but it has a very deep spiritual meaning as well. The deep song is called Toda, darpan, kahilaye. The mind, the mirror of the mind. We'll explore the meaning in detail with the music. Then there's a stavan from a great saint from the 17th century, Sri Anandghanji Saheb. Mandu Kima, hina, Baaje. He's written a different stavan on each of the 24 Tirthankaras following a long journey. And the stavan of the 17th Tirthankara, Kuntunar Bhagwan, is all about the mind and how the mind runs away from us. And the more we try to catch up with the mind, the more it runs away. After we've explored these, we'll talk about artha Dhyan, raudra Dhyan, Dharma Dhyan, Shukla Dhyan. When one goes into meditation, you can see that initial stages of meditation, it's like blowing the dust of a mirror, that actually the negative thoughts, the excitement actually get higher at the first basis of meditation, and then things settle. Similarly, Dhyan is known as meditation in the Jain scriptures, but there's both positive meditation and negative meditation, not just positive. And these are all about the inner mechanics and workings of our mind, and it's gone very deeply into the Jain scriptures. We'll explore a little bit about that. Finally, after that, we'll talk a little bit deeper about a couple of the metaphors we talked about in that first video, which provided a generic overview. We'll go into a little bit more about the meanings behind that, and I've recorded that separately. So let's start first with the story of Prasannachandra Rajarshi. Thank you. Jai Jinendra. Pranam. Once Lord Mahavir arrived in Rajgrihi. There was the royal sage Rajarshi Prasannachandra. He used to perform severe penance, staring at the fire-emitting sun with his one leg up, both arms raised. The Magadh king, Raja, was deeply impressed by such severe penance and politely asked Lord Mahavir, suppose this monk performing the severe penance dies at this moment, what state would he achieve after his death? At the moment this question was asked, the monk Prasannachandra had been in deep, wrathful meditation. Durmukh, the god, had walked past him, and he said, Vachana sunine, hearing the words of Durmukh, Dut, the messenger. This king, the sage king, Rajarshi Prasannachandra, had heard that his son was in the care of the ministers. He had left his son in the care of the ministers when he became a monk. But he heard these ministers were planning to overthrow his son, Jiva Janjar, and he went into wrathful thoughts that these ministers are planning to overthrow my son, to kill him. Who are they? And his mind ran away with him. In his mind and his mind alone, he fought a huge battle, slaying thousands upon millions of his enemy soldiers, of his ministers, and he's lost weapon after weapon after weapon. And as he lost his weapons, all he had left was his helmet on his head. He reached up to grab that helmet, but as he went, he touched a bald head. At that time, Raja continued to ask the question again. Where would he go after his death? Prashna Puche, thinking that maybe he had misheard what Bhagwan had said to him, and what was going on with Prasannachandra Rajarshi at this time. He thought, who am I? What am I doing? I am a monk. I've taken the 5 great vows, including absolute non-violence, to 8.4 million species, each and every living creature. Why am I thinking such negative thoughts? And he retraced his steps. Initially, Bhagwan said to Raja, when Prasannachandra was in deep wrathful meditation that if he dies now, he would go to the seventh narak, to the most negative state of existence. And now, Prasannachandra Rajarshi was retracing his steps. I am so bad. How could I think such negative thoughts? Michami Dugdam, please forgive me. He retraced his steps. He went back. Forgive me. He got so deep into asking forgiveness, into repentance, that he shed thousands and burnt karma of millions and millions of lives. And as he rose at that time, Shrenik Raja asked his question again, because he wasn't sure of the answer, that how a sage looking so peaceful on the outside could have such negative black thoughts. As he asked this question again, Bhagwan said if he died now, he would go to Devlok, or heaven. Antar Puchiore. Shrenika Antara Puchiore. Siddhaviman. And as this was said, the Dundupi, Vagi Deva, Dundubhire, the sound of the musical instruments that the devs played to signal that someone had attained Kevala Gnan, or absolute knowledge, or moksha, came at that time. And Prasannachandra Rajarshi went beyond even Devlok and attained moksha, or salvation, burning all of his negative karmas in pure white meditation, the journey from himself to the depths of hell, back beyond to heaven and to moksha itself, in the mind itself. If one has controlled the mind, they've controlled the world. In Star Wars, they say fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hatred. Hatred leads to suffering. This is the progression of artha dhyan to raudra dhyan. Artha dhyan is worrisome meditation. Now, scriptures actually divide it in more detail into many. I believe, I may be wrong, but there's 63 different types of worrisome thoughts. Artha dhyan: when will I get my food? Am I hungry? I'm hungry and I'm angry. I'm hungry, thirsty, tired. You see it in babies all the time, and in us, and many other things that cause us to worry. My money will be taken away from me. Will this go? Will I get this? So if you go into the scriptures, it classifies these, and it's very, very scientific how it does that. And artha dhyan, if one has too much artha dhyan and one builds the ayushya karma for the next life, it can result out of the 4 states of existence: human, heaven, animal, and hell. Artha dhyan can cause a reincarnation in the animal kingdom. But artha dhyan is worry, and too much worry, if it's unchecked, will eventually lead to hatred. Fear is a kind of worry. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Fear leading to hate via anger is artha dhyan progressing to raudra dhyan. Enough worry will cause you to hate someone. I'm worried about my money. Someone's going to take it. How do I protect it? Now I'm going to fight him. Not only fight him, I might even kill someone if it means protecting it. So the higher, obviously I wouldn't, but that is what that mind, if it goes too far down a direction, it will lead to that. Artha dhyan progressing to raudra dhyan. On the positive sides of meditation of the mind, you have dharma dhyan, which is auspicious thoughts. Thinking, like we had in this video earlier, about things like anitya bhavana, the impermanence of this world. Why get attached? Why hate people? Why hold on? Why have revenge? Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Everything we're going to leave here. So why do I commit so many sins for things of this world? These are all aspects of dharma dhyan. That person is so good. Look at the good deeds they've done. I feel happy about that person. No jealousy. I hope that person keeps doing good deeds, and it's good that they're getting a good name. I'm doing good deeds. I don't want a good name for these good deeds, because that's just an exchange. I just want the other people to be happy. I want those poor people to rise up, and a desire for each and every member of society to rise to a level, an equal level of happiness throughout. Not wishing ill upon anybody. These are all examples of dharma dhyan. And as we mentioned, the progress of artha dhyan to raudra dhyan, so dharma dhyan taken far enough can lead to something called Shukla Dhyan, which precedes salvation or moksha, and that's known as white meditation. So you can see that our Jain scriptures go into deep details about all of these things, and these can be even classified further, and understanding it more and more helps us understand our mind, how our mind works, how the mind can trick us and take us in different directions, and how to fight the uncontrolled mind, as we heard in all of those metaphors in the last video.
तोरा मन दर्पण कहलाए, तोरा मन दर्पण कहलाए, भले बुरे सारे कर्मों को देखे और दिखाए, तोरा मन दर्पण कहलाए, मन दर्पण कहलाए।
we're going to talk about some of the metaphors. So we looked initially at the metaphor about the different senses and the mind as a central commander. In the Jain scriptures, in the Jain faith, it said that since time immemorial, 4 things have followed us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Ahar Sanghna, Bhaya Sanghna, maithuna, and Parigraha Sanghana. Food, fear, reproduction, possessiveness. And we have these lifetime after life, and our mind will gravitate towards these things. You noticed in the second or third metaphor, we talked about water always flowing downwards, and used that as a metaphor. In the absence of good thoughts, negativity will take over. Why is that? So that's a simplification. In the scheme of things, you can understand it by understanding why was spirituality created. The vast majority of Jivs respond to the external stimulus. So if one's in a club, in a pub, in a battlefield, in a fight, if one's in a football match and everyone's having hooliganism, then often people get caught up in that crowd, in that environment, and they go that way. Why? Because the vast majority of Jivs are Nimitta adheen, that they respond to that stimulus. Very, very few Jivs, like Bhagwan, like Tirthankara, are like a lotus in muddy water, that no matter how bad the external stimulus, external circumstance, they will rise and they will only think pure thoughts. Most Jivs, to some extent at least, will respond to their external stimulus, at least in the initial stages. And that's why it says that to give and to feed good thoughts, and then that mind will gravitate higher. The other metaphor talked about the kidnapper, the thief, and a metaphor of the mind as a developing child. In that sense, I once heard a pravachan talk by a great Acharya Maharaj called Jain Ahar Saheb, who was in India, in Ahmedabad, and he's deep in meditation, no publicity, nothing like that. And he used to randomly even go to prisons, and his talks would inspire thousands of prisoners to completely change and turn over their life. And I remember one thing that I heard once when I heard him, he said that there's a thief, and this thief is offering sweets to a child, and even if the child tries to take those sweets and thinks it's good, the mother will still warn the child away. And that was taken from a book as well, and we use that in the metaphor, that the developing mind is like that child, is explained in the metaphor, and I'm expanding on it here, that bad company will take that mind away. Temptations, where that mind is growing up, where the child is growing up, if you want to apply it to parenting as well, will divert, distract, and move that down. But surrounding by good company, this famous quote that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And again, that goes back to most Jivs being Nimitta adheen and responsive to external stimuli. There's 3 types of thinking: Shubh, Ashubh, and Shuddh. Shubh is good, Ashubh is bad, and Shuddh is pure. If you have a dirty, oily glass, to clean that glass, you first apply soap. That's good deeds, good thoughts, positive thinking. When the mind is empty, it will get full of dirt and dust unless positivity is put there. Once that positivity is put there, eventually the water will wash off the dirt and the soap, and even in the absence of thoughts, the mind will stay pure. But initially, the mind, the body needs to be engaged in good deeds. This video will now conclude with the ancient Stavan, Mandu Kima, hina Baaje. Here we will only take a few lines of the Stavan, but it's enough to get a taste of just how deep it is. We could do a whole half-hour video on just a line, and someone with more knowledge than me could do a whole series on just one line. It's a prayer to the 17th Tirthankara by the great saint poet Sri Anandghanji Saheb. He himself was a 17th century Jain saint, spiritually very advanced, preferring seclusion as he was ready for this, and meditation deep in the forests of present-day South Rajasthan and northern Gujarat. Anand means happiness. Anandghanji Saheb wrote a number of amazing works as outpourings of his bhakti and karuna, compassion. Within these works was a series of 24 stavans of each of the 24 Tirthankaras, or ford bearers. The Anandghanji Jovisi. His outpourings of devotion were mystical and magical at the same time, and the Jovisi is not just 24 standalone stavans, but actually a step-by-step journey of the soul. This video is upon the mind, and hence I have taken the 17th stavan from the Anandghanji Jovisi dedicated to the 17th Tirthankara, Kunthunat Bhagwan. The mind is one literal aspect of the subject matter of this stavan. The highlight of making the video, for me, this video, has been being able to read about and reflect upon Anandghanji Saheb and this stavan. And in the future, I plan to dedicate a whole video to this song and cover the whole stavan, and perhaps more videos on Anandghanji Saheb and the Jovisi himself. So lines 1 and 2 of this stavan talk about our own efforts to control the mind. He's addressing this song to Kunthunat Bhagwan as a metaphor and representative of all Tirthankars, as only one who has fully controlled the mind or has got a solution can give the solution. He says, how does the mind run? Mandu Kima hina Baaje. The more I try to catch it and control it, Jima Jima jatana karine raku, Tima Tima alagu Baaje, the more and further it runs away, the more mischief it creates. Rajani Vasar, day or night, Vasati Ujwar, in crowds of solitude, Gayana Payala, above in the sky and the earth, the mind is never still. Sapa Kayane Mukharu Tortu, Eha Ukana Nyaya Oh Kunthijina. There was an ancient saying that a certain poisonous snake may bite many persons but consume nothing, and in the same way, the wandering mind runs everywhere but gains nothing. Now what do we do in lines 3 and 4? Perhaps we take the help of the scriptures to try to control this mind. Mukti tana abhilasha tapiya, gnana dhyana abhyasi kunthijina. In the desire of salvation, I've engaged in penance, internal and external, fasting, meditation, study. I'm still unable to control this mind. Vairi means enemy. Vairi kahya, ehvu chinte. Contempt that my own mind has become an enemy, and it thinks bad. Nakhe avare pase, and puts me in the ring of the other side of illusion itself. And they try to teach me, and even for years I've read and understood. Still, navakina vita aku. Still, when the occasion arises of kashais and vishais, when I really need to control my mind, I lose to it. Tihakane jo hatakari hatakutu, and when I try to suppress it, vyalatani par vaku hokuntuji, it recoils like a snake, controlled for a while, then comes back even stronger. Now, let us sing just this much lines from the stavan. Mandu Kima hina Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Jima Jima jatanaka rune raku, Tima Tima ragu, Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Rajani Vasara Pasati Ujara, Gayana Payale, Jaya Oh Kunthijina, Rajani Vasara Pasati Ujara, Gayana Payale, Jaya Oh Kunthijina. Sabakayane Mukharu Totu Eha Ukane Nyaya Oh Kunthijina, Mandu Kima hina Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Mukti tana abhilashi tapiya, Jnana Dhyan abhyasi Oh Kunthijina, Mukti tani abhilashi tapiya, Jnana Dhyan abhyasi Oh Kunthijina, Vayariru kaya evu chinte nakhe avare Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Mandu Kima hina, Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Agama dharane hathe nave kina vidha, Aku Oh Kunthijina, Agama dharane hathe nave kina vidha, Aku Oh Kunthijina, tihakane jo hatta kari hatta kuto, vyalatani pare vaku Oh Kunthijina, Mandu Kima hina, Baaje Oh Kunthijina, jima jatanaka rune rakhu, timma ragu, Baaje Oh Kunthijina, Mandu Kima hina, Baaje Oh Kunthijina, jima jatanaka rune rakhu, timma ragu, Baaje Oh Kunthijina.